And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash. Coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, bringing you the most detailed imagery of the sun and the most comprehensive space weather you'll find in the known universe. We've got a huge number of filaments on the earthly-facing portion of the solar disk, not the least of which you can see right here. And we've got 3 new sunspots, a little bit of modest sunspot growth over the last 24 hours, which is the length of time depicted in these videos. We've also got a huge prominence happening and a CME unfolding as we stream the video. So there's the setting of sunspot 3140 and 3141. Still capable of producing some significant flaring here, but that's going to wane quickly over the next 12 hours. Let's see a close-up of that. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections nearly 100%. Again, we've got a massive number of filaments. We'll get to it. First, your full disk SGO intensity gram. Again, a little bit of growth here in sunspot 3149. A little bit of evolution happening in this one down here. I forget the number. Oh, we've also got a new group spontaneously forming right here in the northwest. So we'll have at least one more named sunspot group today. It'll be 3150. And let's move on to look at volcanoes. So Dacono is exploding. Flight level 070 over Dacono. Popocatépetl exploding. 22,000 foot ash plume. Flight level 220 over Popocatépetl. Fuego exploding, flight level 150. Nevado de Ruiz exploding, flight level 220. Sangre exploding, flight level 270. It's a 27,000 foot ash plume over Ecuador from Sangre. From Revenador, it's a 14,000 foot ash plume. And from Sabancaya, a 24,000 foot ash plume over Peru, flight level 240. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Please do visit our links. Our latest sponsor / affiliate is Hemp Lucid. As the Black Friday sale continues, use our link to save some cash on your Christmas gifts. If you're looking to pick up some CBDs or other types of fantastic options, click on Shop Now via our link, and you'll find all sorts of products. There's that Start Here and Save 10% link down there at the bottom. The most popular is the organic full-spectrum water-soluble CBD. There are also things like lip balm, body balm, reishi mushroom sleep aids, and all sorts of other fantastic things here from Hemp Lucid. Shout out to Hemp Lucid. Thanks for hooking us up. Next, welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Please visit our links on our homepage, smashomash.com. You can find links to our social media, a permanent link to our Discord chat. That's this one right here. We are also still on Patreon if you want to support the channel that way. Thanks to everybody who has. Credit Crawl coming back soon for our Smash Team members and our patrons. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing that the content exists. Smashomash.com/Smash Team is the official subscription service of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Thanks to our gold and silver Smash Team members for increasing the probability that these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view as we cite space facts as opposed to space nonsense. Again, visit our links. Hit us up on social media and become a member of the Smash Team if you want to support the channel. We replace Patreon with our own superior service. One of the links you'll find on the Smash Team page as well as the home page, as well as below this video, is to SureMed. Improve your health with an association membership. It's not insurance. It's an association membership with the American Better Health Organization. It's focused on improving the health of its members. I think it's improved the health of me, as it's worth it just for the doctors by phone service. Also get virtual veterinarians, discounts on vision and dental, labs, CT scans, hearing aids, durable medical equipment, and lots more. The American Better Health Organization, DBA SureMed, is also linked below the video. All kinds of discounts available there. It's splentacular. I'm a member. Why aren't you? Next, If you don't have a Twitter account, why don't you create a Twitter account? As there's lots of nonsense on there, and the platform is certainly not fixed. You can also find our links pinned on our Twitter profile. So hit us up over there. There is some activity going on, as we still see idiotic tweets every day from people like Elon Musk, Nancy Pelosi, and more idiotic tweets on the daily basis because the software is broken junkware. You can also find links to our merch shop below the video and on the homepage at smashomash.com. Save 25% site-wide. Some of these make great gift ideas. Are you gifting somebody who's not quite so... Are you gifting somebody who's a little bit on the regressive side? Maybe give them the words of wisdom. Forgive, remember, and hold accountable. Because forgive and forget is so 2019. Forgive, remember, hold accountable. Today's featured product is a re-release. Remember, folks, the line between misrepresentation and fraud is intent. If you intentionally misrepresent material facts, you've committed fraud. It's the basic definition. Today's featured product, Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. Again, save 25% on everything at Redbubble. So check out our souvenirs, and congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. What have you found to be scared and spooked about? Maybe there's something that we haven't talked about that you're able to be scared and spooked about. Let us know in the comments. I know it's such a scary, spooky place. Oh my God. It's only the safest the planet's ever been for humans. So that's a reason to be very scared and spooked, isn't it? Anyway, once again, congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. And of course, since portions of California are bringing back mask, quote, recommendations, end quote, we figured we would use this as the featured product today. So yes, Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. Just mask the world. That'll be effective because magic. Press like, press subscribe, press share. Leave us a comment. Tell us how you found the channel. We find it unlikely that you found the channel, which is why our views are absolutely pathetic. Barely 100 views on yesterday's video. It's only the most detailed space weather and solar imagery you'll find anywhere in the universe. I know there's no interest or market for it, right? Okay. Heading back to seismology, there is the 90-day bar graph for Earth's earthquakes. That's what's going on the past 90 days. And let's see what's going on the past 24 hours. No quakes above a 5 magnitude. So we do have there's a 5.0 at Puerto Rico, the largest we've seen there in a while. Some aftershocks happening in Texas, it looks like, as well. 5.2 in Iran. So no major quakes here over the past 24. 5.3 at New Zealand. That's up by the Kermadec Trench. And Kamchatka had a 5.0. No major quakes the past 24. And let's get back to space. Here's the last 24 hours. In ionized helium, one of the classic wavelengths, 304 angstroms from SDO. You can see that prominence beginning there. It is and has created a coronal mass ejection. We do not expect it to be earthly directed. Here's the composite we started the video out with in a full disk format. 171 plus 335 angstroms. I like it because it creates a three-dimensional sort of a view. As remember, folks, the corona is very bumpy. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux has dropped all the way down to 119 solar flux units, with the setting of that massive sunspot group containing 3141 and 3140. There is the 1-year graph to put that in context, and we're going to come back to Solon.info here in a minute. Solon.info. First, the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard forecasting some geomagnetic unrest late at night on Saturday and up until about midday on Sunday. So Saturday the 19th into Sunday morning, we may see some extra aurorae, and of course we'll be sharing those on Twitter. If you're frightened of the aurora, I feel badly for you. the aurora are not scary. Now let's take a look at Solon.info real quick. I just want to show you some of the features here on Solon.info. There's all kinds of analysis that you'll only see on this website. One of the things they do is they talk about flares. So there's a list of flares there and like a timeline talking about the incorrectly attributed flares by the Space Weather Prediction Center. And what I'm looking for here is coronal holes. So if you scroll down, actually right to here, you'll see the coronal hole history. Since we have a very well-defined coronal hole at the moment, I just wanted to show you this great feature. It'll show you the KP index, the AP index maximum, the effects of that coronal hole. So for example, this one here, we saw a max speed of 713 kilometers per second, which is the fastest one in quite a while there. Coronal hole 1111. There's a faster one at 748. Anyway, the coronal hole history available there on Solon.info if you wish to check it out. Next, looking at the earthly geospace for the past 4 hours. Also a thing not to be frightened of, since there is obviously a magnetic field still there. No, the magnetic field isn't going to suddenly evaporate. Crack a geology book if you think it is. That's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment to about 12 Earth diameters in space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Pretty calm conditions here. We did see a likely CME strike. We'll get to it. The units represented here are nanotesla. It's all part of the space weather modeling framework, and you can read about that by clicking the details tab. Click the details tab. You'll have a link to the space weather modeling framework. You can download all of the software and check out the calm conditions here. Very geomagnetically calm conditions over the past 3 days. Current condition is KP 0.67. So it's rounded to 1, but it's less than 1. Looking at the real-time solar wind here, we do see a thing that looks like a CME strike, because we don't see an uptick in the solar wind speed here after it. So it looks like a minor coronal mass ejection strike, accompanied by a slight negative BZ magnetic field. So we do see that shift. This right here, this is a switch in the instrument. There we see it going from the ACE to the Discover. You can see it. Green bar, blue bar is ACE to Discover switch. That's what happened there. But that quickly subsided, so that was a tiny little CME impact, it looks like. No uptick in the solar wind speed there, so I don't think it's a coronal hole high-speed stream. Current conditions are about 7 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density, and about 329 kilometers per second for the solar wind speed. It's slow and moderately diffuse. Next, magnetic data. Here are the GOES magnetometers. Yes, we have a divergence happening around midnight local time for the GOES 17. That's what this M stands for. And let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet. So a little bit about reading this imagery, by the way. You might find this kind of strange, but since it's the top view ecliptic plane field plot, what we're doing is we're looking down at the north pole of the sun here. So you can see the north solar polar field right there. Part of it is still on the north polar region. This area down here, you can see some of it is actually still at the south pole as well. And you can see there's some north pole magnetism at the south pole, which is what this, you see these lines? Has these like vertical lines in it. That's because that's the opposite side of the sun. So we still don't have the sunspot cycle progressing in earnest. That's my point. There's a lot of sunspot cycle to go. If you think we've reached solar max, think again, you're utterly incorrect. And I agree with guys like Scott McIntosh, who seem to know what they're talking about when it comes to solar cycles. There is a lot of fireworks to follow. Next, our line of sight field plot. Can expect some hardcore activity coming. And of course, since the sun's B field now is a triangular in shape, that is something to be very scared and spooked of. Because remember, folks, in space, when there are shapes, that is scary and spooky. So if you want to be frightened, there you go. Be frightened of that. It's a triangular shaped B field. Oh my God. Moving to coronal holes. Here's our line of sight coronal hole plot. We've got this very well-defined South Pole oriented coronal hole here rotating in just past the Earth-facing strike zone. The strike zone, as Tamitha Skov calls it. So there you go. There is your last 24 hours and 211 angstroms. That is a gaping coronal hole. And we could expect some high-speed winds from that, or it could miss Earth entirely. I would tend to agree with NOAA that we will have some impact from it. Just a brief period of geomagnetic storm is what I would expect, although it could continue for a couple days. So that's very far to the south. We'll have to see what happens. And let's move to sunspots. So as forecasted, we did see sunspot 3149 get a name. We'll have another sunspot named up here in the northwest. That one right there, that'll be 3150. And let's take a look at our SDO magnetogram from the past 24 approximately. And you'll see some umbral growth on the SDO continuum. And so let's show that next. And let's take some close-ups. Here's 3149's recent evolution for the past 24 hours. Here are these southeastern sunspots. A little bit of modest growth in the southern one. And another one forming here. So that might be 3150. That could be 3150. And we may have two new groups. 3150 and 3151 might get names today. We'll have to see how long they stick around. Energetic particles, we ain't got none. The proton flux is flatlined. So the GOES X-ray flux here, seeing a series of C-class flares happening. They're all about C5 flares. And let's take a look at the last 24 from our favorite wavelengths to view flares. 131 angstroms and 94 angstroms. So here's 131. See that CME propagating at the end? That's 94. And let's take a look at a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you might see the moon, a lovely crescent moon, as we're only 6 days from a new moon. Mars setting in the west. It's a little on the cool side over most of the country. We'll get to it. Here's a solar system forecast for the next 7 days. There's where we'll be in 7 days. We will have a crescent waxing moon by that point. And let's take a look at some coronagraphs from yesterday from George Mason University. So there you go. There's the Soho-Lascaux C2. We'll also show stereo A for yesterday. Here is stereo A. And if you're wondering, I don't think those CMEs are earthly directed. Let's take a look at this again here. So there's the view from stereo A. Here's the view from Soho-Lascaux C3. And those CMEs are off to the west. So no earthly directed solar activity here, at least in the form of CMEs. Earth would be off on this line, but from this perspective, it's pretty obvious that those CMEs are not earthly directed. Continuing on, here's our 24-hour imagery. There is some missing data there. We'll zoom out one level. Again, we do not anticipate any of those coronal mass ejections to be earthly directed. Next, filaments. And there are a shocking number of filaments, dozens of filaments here on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Once again, likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections, nearly 100%. Some of these filaments are quite huge. Check these out. This one's right on the equator. That one is very likely to eject. And we have a CME happening while we record the video right up here. Here's the last 24 hours and 171 angstroms. And it's going to look fantastic from the GOES 16 SUVI because we've actually caught the latest CME and huge prominence with perfect timing. So there you go. That's the past about 2.5 hours. And one of the many reasons why the wide field of view is so great on the GOES 16 SUVI because, well, you'll see prominences like that that might be too wide to be seen on the SDO. Continuing on to our bonus feature segment, to see no charging hazards here. It's a smooth sailing environment for satellites. Electron flux here just at pretty unremarkable levels. There is the NOAA forecast for electron flux. Expecting a minor dip here. No argument there. There's the 1-year graph of the electron flux. And let's take a look at the ionosphere, which is showing low-frequency anomalies once again over the northern hemisphere. You'll see quite significant low-frequency anomalies here. And if you're not familiar with looking at this data, don't worry. Here is the anomalygram. That is anomaly from the 30-day median in megahertz. Facts. Do they megahertz? Apparently they're very controversial. It is the year 2022 after all. Here's the latest image, 11:30 Universal Time. Ionogram, 11:30 Universal Time, ionogram, anomalygram. And check it out. Huge low-frequency anomalies happening there over the northern hemisphere. Next, the total electron content, which, by the way, is back. We have the full Earth view now once again. We will show the North American view, and we'll also show the anomaly. Not the standard deviation, just the anomaly, because the full planet view is back. We've actually got low-level electron flux anomalies happening there. And let's take a look at the full Earth view, since the total electron content forecast is now back, and we've got actually high levels of electron flux over the North American continent. Some anomalous electrons there appearing in various places. So quite a few electrons out of place here at the moment. And again, folks, the Earth's magnetic field is not evaporating. But if it does shift, this is going to show you some insight into those shifts. And we do indeed see some shifting happening here because there are lots of free electrons in lots of weird places. So there you go. That is the electron content from about 12,500 miles of altitude down to your GPS handset, from the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt down to ground level. Here's your total electron content still map. There's your latest refresh. And let's move on to our latest intensitygram and latest magnetogram before we move on to meteorology. So there's the latest. Again, 2 or 3 new named sunspot groups showing up here today. So a little uptick in activity there, a modest uptick from the closest star. And let's take one more series of images from SDO. That is yesterday plus today in 3 wavelengths. You've got the 211 angstroms, you've got the 304 angstroms, and you've got the 171 angstroms, and you've got the Smash News Network bringing you the most detailed imagery of the closest star and space weather in the known universe. So what we're doing next is we're going to the ever-popular realm of meteorology. Yes. So here we go. We're looking at the DUX. The DUX. What's the DUX, you ask? Well, the DUX is the dust extinction aerosol optical thickness 550 nanometers. Because we wanted to take a look at the Saharan dust. We haven't looked at it for a while. It is some dust that fertilizes the Bahamas. It's part of the reason why they're so lush. Because they're getting all kinds of vitamins and minerals from the Sahara Desert. Yes. Yes. Anyway, those are the surface winds plus the dust. And the dust is chilling there in the mid-Atlantic. Not really making it all the way across. Anyway, let's head to our regularly scheduled surface wind map. There you go. These are the surface winds of the eastern world. Like sands through the hourglass of time, these are the surface winds of your lives. And these are the jet streams of the east. These are the jet streams of the west. And if you had only one feature to use to forecast weather, the jet stream would be a great place to start. There are the surface winds. Some strong winds in the North Atlantic. Seems like a bad day to be on a boat with Marky Mark and George Clooney. Next, surface winds of the central world. And last but not least, the jet streams. By the way, some heavy snow's coming to some portions of the U.S. We'll get to that in a moment. First, clouds and fog over the Americas. So there you go. There is the 3.9 nanometer radiation map. That is part of the infrared spectrum. Because clouds emit radiation. Yeah. Water vapor. It's a greenhouse gas. A real greenhouse gas as opposed to a fictional greenhouse gas. That's what's going on in terms of clouds and fog over the Western world. So let's take a look at snow here before we get to our weather.gov map and so on. Because, well, there's quite a bit of it. We're only at, what, November 18th now? And check out the Northern Hemisphere snow totals. They're pretty impressive. Because, I mean, everybody talks about snow extent. Well, snow extent is just a two-dimensional amount of coverage, and we're over one standard deviation above the 1998 to 2011 average. For snow water equivalent, we're way above the +1 standard deviation line. And for snow mass balance, well above the 1 standard deviation line. Just figured I'd put it out there. It's what we call facts. And let's continue on to our weather.gov map. If your county's lit, click your county. We've got freeze warnings along the Gulf Coast, and it's only November 18th, folks. Probably going to make for a mild winter for the mid-Atlantic states, because when we see very cold temperatures early, we tend to see a mild winter. We'll see what happens. That's not a forecast, by the way. That is just a statistical probability based on past information. Again, if your county's lit, click your county on weather.gov. And here are some forecasts. So let's report on this tiny area right here. Oh my God, Nebraska is going to get anomalously warm for about 5 minutes. That is a 72-hour GFS temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius. And here is our accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. And check it out, that's the next 72 hours and some heavy snows there. 2 feet plus coming to parts of New York. Again, that's your 72-hour GFS positive snow depth change forecast in inches. And let's take a look at the pressure and precipitation forecast for the same model in the same period. Some strong systems developing there in the Gulf of Mexico. Heavy snows around the Great Lakes. Continuing on to our Euro forecast. This is the lower 48, obviously. And we're going to do the Euro forecast for snow depth here based on windy.com. So let's see the snow pile up here in the next 3 days. So the Euro forecast here, maybe not expecting that much. So it looks like the GFS forecast is expecting a little higher snow totals there for the Great Lakes portion of New York. And let's continue on to look at some more data. There is the NASA GOES lightning mapper. Some lightning there around Lake Erie, actually. And let's see if there are any real-time lightning strikes. Not in the U.S. We do see some around the eastern Mediterranean. Little thunderstorm happening there. Next time you hear thunder, check it out, lightningmaps.org. You could convince the natives that you're Zeus or Thor or something like that. And let's finish things out with some Doppler radar imagery. Clouds and fog over the U.S. And water vapor. General Disturbance asks, what's causing the kink in the jet stream off the west coast of the U.S., the Rockies? Well, the air doesn't pile up that far away. It has to do with hot and cold and moist and dry. Moist air is less massive than dry air. Cold air is more massive than warm air. So that's what's causing it. Cold air represents high pressure, and warm, moist air represents low pressure. Here's a recap. The U.S. Doppler radar map showing vertical motion of water droplets in the air column. Shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog when it's too dark over 2/3 of the country to use the visible satellite. Last but not least, the water vapor map, which should clear up your radar concerns. If the radar's not giving you the full picture, hopefully that will. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-a-Mash, and it's time to sign off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. May that solar wind be at your back.